Welcome to Soulful Equine. I'm Stephanie, and today I'm going to talk about 2 horsekeeping errors that make us look dumb. Well, I'm not trying to insult anyone. However, I really feel strongly about these 2 things that I believe more and more people need to know about. And what's quite humorous is I see it on a consistent basis in the area that I live in. And I live in an area that I'm surrounded by huge ranches, people who are even in, big futurity, they consistently go to these big futurities, they're supposedly no horses, okay? And like I said, I don't really want to insult anybody, but I'm really hoping that just by communicating these 2 tips, that maybe it will save some horses out there. And for the most part, if you're doing one of these things, like I said, I'm not trying to insult you. It's just that maybe you just didn't know. And we've all been there, we've done things that maybe we didn't know why we were doing it. And that kind of goes back to the monkey see, monkey do type of thing, that maybe you saw someone else do it and you thought, oh, it was okay. And we've all done that, okay? And I'm not, exempt in any way, shape, or form. It's just a matter of learning, moving on, and improving our horsekeeping skills, our horsekeeping practices, our horsemanship, and so on. So here we go. Here's the first one. Leaving your drop-down windows open and allowing your horses to stick their head out the drop-down window as you're in transit, going down the highway or any road whatsoever. This is a very dangerous practice. I see it quite often just around me, and I can just drive even an hour from my house and back, and I can see. One time I just went out down the road to go eat up in town, and I think I saw about 3 trailers that this was the case. The reason it is dangerous, first of all, your horse, especially if you don't have any kind of eye protection on them, the ones I do see, a lot of times they don't have any eye protection. They're just, their heads are completely out the window. They could get something in their eye. You might go along and hit a tree branch. There could be anything that could just really damage your horse's face. The other thing is, and I never thought about this till probably several years ago. I went to a horsemanship conference, and the person giving the conference, we were talking about trailer loading, that kind of thing. And one thing he said was, he says, please, if anything, do not leave your drop-down windows open while driving down, the road or for any reason. With your horses inside. He had actually knew somebody that when they had, I don't know if it was 2, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 horses were in the trailer, and they were driving down the road, and then they went over this bridge, this covered bridge, and all the horses in the trailer were decapitated. That is no joke. And I'm sure there's lots of other stories out there of horses being injured just for this simple thing. So please, please put your drop-down windows up. Another thing is, I personally don't even leave them down, the drop-down bars. You can leave the bars up, but just don't leave the entire window with the bars to where the horse can completely stick their head out. Just make it a habit to always have that closed when you're in transit. I also don't leave them open, like if I leave the trailer parked, because I've also heard stories of horses, even the most trained or gentle horse, maybe one that had been hauled a lot, that had actually jumped out of that or tried to attempt to jump out of the window. And, they were halfway through the window and were caught. And, of course, it was just a big mess, and no telling, what had to happen to try to get that horse out of that situation. So my big belief is prevention. So please, for the safety of you and your horse, and also to save money, because if something happens, you've lost your horse, you probably had to destroy your trailer. No telling what could happen. When you're dealing with horses, anything can happen. So if you've been lucky enough to not have something happen to you, well, good for you. However, it's best to just use prevention. The other one is, and this is something I see often, and please, by no means, don't get offended, and because I know there are people reason, in their minds, they reason that this is okay to do. I see many people, even top trainers or a lot of these big ranches around here, where they actually turn their horses out with halters on. Not only that, even worse yet, I'll see baby foals with halters left on in the pasture, in the paddock, or in their stalls or whatever. This is extremely dangerous practice, very, very dangerous. I personally know someone, she was an acquaintance, actually a friend of a friend. I've met her a couple of times. She wasn't real experienced with horses. She, I guess, had gone in with a person on another horse, and that horse had a foal. Well, their first thing, they thought, well, they need to get a halter on it, and that's the typical, thought process for many horse owners if they're first-time foal owners or that kind of thing. They just don't know any better. So they went and they put a halter on this little foal, and sure enough, that poor little horse got tangled, whether it was in a fence or he probably tried to scratch himself behind the ear or something, but he got tangled up and he strangled himself to death. And he wasn't very old. This is something that has happened. It happens many times, and people who it doesn't happen to, you're just darn lucky that it hasn't happened to you. Whether the horse tries to scratch themselves behind their ear, because horses love to do that, or they get it caught on a fence or a trough, or maybe they're playing with another horse and somehow get tangled up. Anything could happen with horses. So again, prevention is key. And even people who say, well, my halter is a breakaway, it's a leather or whatever halter, and it would break away with enough force. Well, what is enough force is what you need to ask yourself. What is enough force? For example, that little baby foal, let's say you had a, breakaway on it. What kind of force would it take just to get that halter off in time before the poor thing strangled itself? So something to think about. If you can't catch your horse, or you can't get your horse to catch you, is really the key. Your horse, then there's a bigger underlying problem there. And like I said, I'm not trying to insult anyone. However, I don't know any other way other than just being straightforward with this and getting my point across. So one solution to that is in my previous article, I kind of talked a little bit about horsemanship. Good horsemanship skills are very important. So this is one area where you can really work on to maybe get your horse to like you a heck of a lot more, so that they're approaching you versus you having to go out and catch them. Well, that's a wrap, and I hope you enjoyed this segment, and I really hope it helps a few people out there, because these are some basic questions that that sometimes first-time horse owners ask, and they just don't know. And even people who've been in horses a long time, they've just maybe done it that way, and that's how they've done it forever. But maybe now's the time to change a few things, and let's do our best to prevent our horses from getting hurt or killed, or even us getting hurt. So that's a wrap. So I hope everyone enjoyed this segment, and we'll see you next time.